Okay, I would just like to welcome everybody and thank Paul and his team from I've Got a Name. So we have Paul Yates, Megan Cook, and Pam Mock joining us to talk about their organization and answer questions for us. Thanks,
Great.
Paul.
Thanks, Tanya, and everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm the director of I've Got a Name, and Megan's our outreach director, street outreach director, and Pam is our street outreach specialist. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really appreciative of you guys too recording this so people can watch it too. Awareness is critical that sex trafficking exists in our city of Lincoln, throughout the state of Nebraska. I mean, just everywhere. And just real briefly, I was with an organization for about 8 years overseas in Nepal, lived here, but worked for that organization. And that's when I met our founder, Bob Burton, who found out about human trafficking. And then I won't go into the whole story. It's quite an amazing story, though, from his standpoint. I think that he gets involved and he wants to do something about it. I do need to mention that he heard the old song by Jim Croce called I've Got a Name, and he thought every one of these girls should be treated with love, respect, and dignity. So if you know who Jim Croce was, then I know what age group you're in. I'm in that age group, and but it has nothing to do with sex trafficking, but every girl should be treated with love, respect, and dignity. So we fight sex trafficking in Lincoln and Nebraska, awareness throughout the state, but our focus right now is Lincoln because of resources. We're a nonprofit, 501c3. We are faith-based. We don't force our beliefs on anyone. It's why we do what we do. And yet people come to us and have questions, and we're sure there to answer them and help them along their journey in their life. I do want to say up front, we do know that boys get trafficked too. They do. Our main focus and our mission is women and girls. And if we were to come across a situation where there was a male involved, I would get involved with that directly. We would not disregard it by any means. But our main focus is women and girls. And so Megan's been with us, and I'll let those two kind of introduce themselves a little bit. But Megan's been with the organization for what, 5 years, I think, Megan, going on 5 years. Pam just joined us back in February. We're so blessed to have both of them. And I'm the director since 2016. I've known Bob since 2008 when I first started fighting this over in Nepal. One of the biggest issues that we face here is awareness and understanding that it's here. And the other big issue we face are all the stereotypes that we all live with. We just have to admit that we all live with stereotypes, with images. And I always say there's this line you can draw when we talk about sex trafficking or sexual exploitation, or women or girls in the life of prostitution. We can look at those hard definitions of what sex trafficking is, but we feel that every one of these women or girls or men, boys, are loved by God. And so we kind of erase that line in there, because even by law in this state, if you're a minor and you're sexually exploited, it's automatically sex trafficking. And so we try to help them on their journey, and a lot of that is difficult. Back to the myths and the stereotypes that we all have. I mean, I always use the example of Pretty Woman. Thought it was a cute little movie with what's her name and what's his name, and but it's a horrible movie because it depicts women in the life of prostitution as some glorious thing, and you'll meet Richard Gere and you'll be taken off at the end in a limousine with flowers and happily ever after, when we know it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that at all. And we also have a lot of image in our head about what an owner may look like. I will not use the word pimp. It's an owner. A lot of times the word pimp will denote a certain ethnic group. I will not call a buyer a John because it's a beautiful name. If you know what their name is, call them by their name. It's a buyer. And I will not, as you've noticed, I will not call a woman or a girl a prostitute. I hate the label. There's a woman or a girl in the life of prostitution. Finally, our state years ago created laws to protect these women that are in the life of prostitution. As I heard Patty Penzing Brooks once say at state capitol, these girls are not criminals, they're the victims. The criminals are the buyers and sellers. Amen. That's exactly what it is. Then understanding, where is it? I mean, I've lived in Lincoln my whole life, but people will say, well, I know certain parts of town it's in. I think it's in. And I'm just going to tell you, it's everywhere. It's in all parts of the city of Lincoln. It's all parts of the state of Nebraska. You know, Upland, Nebraska, population, I think, of 128, had a mother selling her daughter, two daughters, I believe, several years ago. You can Google it, Upland, Nebraska, sex trafficking. It's everywhere. When I started as the first director in 2016, Creighton University came out with a report that's on our website called Nebraska Commercial Sex Market. And it's an awesome research. I mean, and it's an easy read. Like I said, go to the resources on I'veGotAname.org and you can download it. And it was perfect timing because it started really defining the realities of what's going on in our state and our city. Again, because people just don't think it's here. They think it's over in Nepal or Cambodia or Thailand or in the big cities on the East and West Coast, but not here. Certainly not in the state, the good life, you know? Well, unfortunately it is. And that report was based on a website called Backpage that was taken down, thank goodness, but it's still out there working, I'm sure, in the dark web, as other sites are. And you could buy a car, a computer, a human being. It was despicable. It was just unbelievable that you see these ads on there. So their research was based on communication between buyers and sellers online. And it was extensive research and just really amazing. So I'm not a real statistics guy, although we do like them as a society. The reason that is because I'm going to give you numbers, but we aren't talking about numbers. We're talking about people, we're talking about souls, we're talking about human beings, you know. So we never want to lose sight of that. But the Creighton report indicated that every 30 days in Nebraska, at least 900 girls are for sale, multiple times, at least. And I'll underline at least 1,000 times because research is always underestimated. Talk to any person that does research in this field, because it's a very sensitive subject, and acknowledging it is really difficult. 900 in the city of Lincoln, at least 200 girls every month for sale. And again, remember, this is on a website. This is not everything else. This is a piece of the pie, not the whole pie, a piece, a big piece. And I will tell you now, with our work, most of the women and girls we work with are not being sold online through an advertisement. Yes, there's perpetrators out there that use social media, use games and all that stuff to coerce or, you know, groom women and girls. Yes, that's true. But yeah, it's crazy, those numbers. The average cost to purchase a person in this state is $210 an hour. That's the average cost. And I'm just saying, you know, this is not the $25 trick from the movies or something. No, I always say this is about power and money. It's what it is. It's power money. It's not the beauty of love between two people who love each other. Okay. And we all kind of know that, but it really gets murky real quick. The average age in our country of a girl entering the commercial sex trade is 13. And other research, 14, 15, 13. I mean, that's the average age. You know, we're working with a girl now who's 12, and we started when she was a little over 10. And so it's just everywhere, and it's every age. I always like to quote Lauren Bethel, an international consultant, who once said, "It's the exploitation of vulnerability, what makes you vulnerable." The Creighton report indicated that 5% of our population in Nebraska is African American. 50% of the ads were African American. I will say this twice. It's not an African American issue. It's not an African American issue. Okay. They're being targeted. They're being targeted. That's it. And that's why those myths and those stereotypes, it is all ethnic groups, all income brackets. It's everyone everywhere. It can be that house with the white picket fence. Simple as that, you know? So I'm going to give you a couple stories. I want Megan to talk about her work in street outreach. I'll let Pam talk about herself. And then we want to hopefully open this up to question and answer. I mean, I could sit here, as these two work with me now, I could talk to you for a full hour. But I do like interaction. And I hope you two have already realized I've cut a lot out, haven't I? So just so we can have conversation, because we also want to learn about you guys too. We're all about collaboration. We will work with anybody as long as they align with our mission, you know, and you obviously do, you know. So that's why we're excited for this, and hopefully we can educate you a little bit more, and you'll even be maybe even more intrigued to learn a little bit more. You'll look back in your life and you'll think, I wonder if that person was a victim. I just got a call from a couple that are the godparents to my two youngest kids. They live in a nice part in South Lincoln, and they told me a story about a house across the street. And I'm calling my future son-in-law as a sergeant at the police department and talk to him about it. I mean, it's grave. It's obvious. There's people going on in there. There's things going in that house, and you'd never imagine it in their neighborhood, you know? So that's the whole deal. So how does this happen? Okay, I'm just going to give you some stories. First would be a mother whose daughter, she's a single mom, and her daughter's very talented in athletics. She's in high school, and she thinks the bruises on her body are from athletics until she sees on her computer one day that her image was on her computer. Her boyfriend was selling her. Okay, her boyfriend was selling her. There's a couple girls at a high school football game, and honestly, they really don't care about the football game. They're there to socialize. Okay. I've got a daughter that just graduated from high school 2 years ago. That's why she went to the games, just to socialize. Love it. Well, there's a guy there, and he's a good looking young guy. And of course, this guy is going to see them and talk with them. And if they get engaged in conversation, he's starting right there, you know, and he's saying everything they want to hear. The exploitation of vulnerability. What makes you vulnerable? That's the first step. A lot of it's self-esteem. I'm not going to get into psychology. I'm not a psychologist, but they start saying stuff these girls just want to hear, you know, and that dialogue goes on during that game all that time. And eventually their goal is to get them someplace after that game. So they invite them to a party. They shouldn't go. And if a couple do, that's the first step. Give them some alcohol. They shouldn't drink it. Maybe they do. Here, do you want some weed? Do you want to smoke some weed? They shouldn't. Do they do it? Now here comes the coercion. Here comes the threats. That's not free. You know, we want more than that. And then they start to scare them. Now I'm sitting thinking, well, what girl would do that? I mean, she'd just say, forget it, I'm leaving. Well, you got to understand the complexity of all this and how these perpetrators do this. Okay. And so now if they take that next step, they got them. They have them right there. Okay. That's just grooming of a high school football game 50 miles up the road from us in Omaha. Okay. A mom goes shoe shopping with her daughter, and they go into the store. She's in high school, and the daughter sees a young girl who her classmate in school, and they run at each other and hug, and she didn't know she even worked there, and they're talking, and she's also on the soccer team with her. And so this mom starts asking this young girl, you know, well, how long have you worked here? And she goes, oh, I've worked here so long. Well, how many hours do you work? She goes, well, I only work so many hours because my parents tell me my priority has to be my studies. You know, my time has to be my studies in school. Also, I'm on the soccer team. I have a commitment to that soccer team. I got to, you know, cut time out for that. So I can only work so many hours. I work X number of hours for extra money, gas money, whatever it is. And oh, okay. Well, how much do you get paid an hour? And she tells her. And then she says, well, you know what? I own a spa, and I have a part-time job. And your smile is just beautiful. And you have such energy. This is exactly what we need at that front desk. We had someone there, they left, they just didn't have it, you know, and you'd be perfect. You know, maybe you can work for us. Well, long story short, you know where this is going. She goes and works at this place. Okay. And after a while, she starts to recognize that at certain times that day, there's more men coming into that spa. And then she starts to figure out there's more things going on behind that door than spa. You know, all of a sudden, here comes the question from the owner of that place. You want to make more money? All you got to do is go back there. You can make a lot of money in a short amount of time. Certainly, this young girl would never do that. Okay. Her parents sound like good parents. Her priorities, school, you know, commitment, all this stuff, setting goals, all this stuff, until the FBI find her back there. You see, I mean, I've left out 98% of the story because I don't know it all. But this woman groomed her from when she met her. You know, by the way, the guy at the football game and the couple that hired him are all in federal prison. This woman is in federal prison for sex trafficking. Okay. It just shows you it can be anyone, anywhere. and that's the frightening part of it. And that's the frightening part of it. And we're trying to get people to understand what some of the warning signs may be, but it's difficult. It's difficult to look at those warning signs because we also have to be very sensitive. You know, I had a couple about a year ago call me, and she said, Paul, I took a picture of my husband. There's a girl behind her, and I'm really concerned about her. She's with this older guy, and she was a different nationality than he was. And she goes, I'm just really concerned. And I don't far from the restaurant. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting here at home thinking, well, what can I do? You know, I mean, what can I do? Can I go in there and say, hey, who is this you're having dinner with? I mean, maybe maybe it's her adopted daughter. Maybe his wife is that ethnicity. Maybe he's mentoring her. Maybe he's the owner of the restaurant and he's interviewing her. I think you wouldn't do that over dinner, but what can I do? But maybe there's some other things we could look for, people that work there that may be trained in understanding what this may look like. Okay. And I will tell you right now, and maybe you already understand this, but these people these girls, these victims, they deal with so many emotions. And I'm just going to acknowledge right now, I'm a guy. I can't even begin to fully understand as a female what these emotions must be. I hear about them. I can hear about shame and guilt and fear. I've had shame and guilt and fear in my life, but it's nothing like they're experiencing. So why don't you say something? Why don't you do something? The young woman we know in a small town in Nebraska who was bullied her whole childhood and ended up getting online in a chat room. This is back years ago. And it was a Christian chat room, safe chat room, until this guy, middle-aged guy, exposed himself to her. It scared her. Oh, I'm so sorry. He just worked her. Eventually, this young girl starts sending pictures, start stuff online, sexting, whatever you want to call it. I met her 3 years ago. She's married, has kids, she got out of it. But that she needed someone to appreciate her and love her because she was being bullied, and how could she do that? Well, that's what she did. That's where she went to. This guy groomed her and brought her in. The sad reality is she said the only way I could get out is getting fat and ugly. That just breaks my heart. So I don't think anybody's fat and ugly. Nobody is fat and ugly. God doesn't create that. Okay. And so we had this girl that's very vulnerable, and she wants to help us with our work and talk about these games and these things on there. And we have all kinds of stories we could share with you. So, but those are just some of the stories. The last one I'll share with you is a gentleman that I know of who's 34 years old. And I've known him for several years through family member, and a great guy. If you'd meet him, you'd think he's just the greatest guy ever. And he's single. And actually it was a year ago now, I found out that he had quite a drinking problem. And I kind of wondered, I'd been at some social events with him, but I don't know. And then I was told what's worse than that. He was caught in a sting operation up in Omaha. And I'm going, oh my gosh. And honestly, my first thought was, gosh, he knows what I do. If I could have just talked with him, he's got serious problems. I'm not saying I could have saved him, but men, this is a man issue. This is a big man issue. And this guy, and of course, my acquaintance was all upset, thought he was entrapped. Well, no, it was a undercover posing as a 15-year-old. And I said to my acquaintance, I said, you know what? Unfortunately, this was probably not the first time he did this. He just got caught. And it's public record. And when I read the public record, they'd been following from his phone and his IP address or whatever for about 4 months. So when he got to that parking lot, he was arrested. Well, guess what? He just started 10 years in federal prison in January with no parole. He'll be on the sex offenders list the rest of his life, and I think 10 years of probation when he gets out. Now, I am not going to say, oh, this poor guy, because I'm going to say, no, this poor women or these poor girls that he abused. Okay. But it's a man issue. And we got to start getting men to start talking about this, and that's part of our men's movement. We want to start. And we're honestly just kind of waiting for God to direct us in it because it's tough to find somebody. We've had some people step up, but we really need somebody, because we need to start having men talking to their sons and their daughters, and moms talking to their sons and daughters. And we also know there's a lot of families that don't have the father figure in the household, so it's very complicated and very difficult. So I give you just those stories. I think that we have 3 of our pillars: our awareness, understanding what this is. Number 1, I tell everybody, when I first started as a director in 2016, I just wanted to quit talking about it. Let's just do something. And I realized, no, I'm back in 2008 when I started. This city has no clue what's going on here, just none. So awareness is critical. Our second is take action. And that's our street outreach. And that's Megan and Pam. And guys, I'm just the executive director. I'm compared to what these 2 do. They're the ones doing the stuff. It's not me. I always say, if something goes wrong, I'll take the blame. Anything goes right, I'll give them the credit and God the glory. That's just the bottom line of what we believe. And then our third pillar is inspiration. This is inspiration right now. You guys were inspired to find out more about us so we can all be together. One of our taglines is we're stronger together. You know, I mean, I met I'm sorry, I can't remember the doctor's name. I met him years ago over at New Vibe. Back then it was called New Vibe. And great guy. I just saw him not too long ago too. I think maybe give to Lincoln event or something. I'm horrible with names, but what a great program you guys are involved in. You know, seriously, what an incredible program. And we know there's other ones around Lincoln. So working like this together is awesome. So I will let Megan, if you want to kind of go first and just kind of, you know, tell a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do, because just talk about what your days are like. And we all know COVID put a pretty, you know, a pretty weird fix on us all. We're finally kind of recovering from that, but you know, our work is one-on-one. So go ahead, Megan.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry. The Zoom presentations are always a little bit awkward, so I apologize. But no, well, now Pam and I feel like get the best part of the job. I think it's the most rewarding, but also the most difficult and challenging. You know, we get to work one-on-one with these girls side by side. And I know for me personally, I do use my past life experiences, what I had went through, where I'm at now, to really be able to relate to some of these gals that are in some really dark and just really heavy places. I always say to these girls, you know what, my story may not look like yours and yours may not look like mine, but if they can relate just a tiny bit to my story when I share it, I just see walls coming down. And it's difficult for these women and girls to trust. That's a huge barrier that I have sometimes, being able to for them to be able to open up over time and be able to share with us what's going on. It's yeah, so let's see, we get referrals from all over the town. We work closely with the Lincoln Police Department, victim witness, adult probation, juvenile probation, all sorts of other organizations around town, like the Child Advocacy Center, Voices of Hope, Friendship Home. We have people reach out through our website, and just kind of word of mouth. Girls talk to girls. It's actually a pretty small, seems like a big town, but it's pretty small town. And then going out to the jails, that used to be honestly one of my favorite part of my jobs, was going out to the jails and talking. Sometimes I'd go down and I'd talk to 20 girls and just share my story, share what I do. And at the end, I would say, if any of you guys can relate to this, if you if any of this resonates, come see me afterwards and I'll come back out here and talk to you one-on-one. And sometimes there was no girls that would raise their hands, but sometimes there was like 2 or 3 that would come to me afterwards and be in tears and just say, hey, this is my story, this is what I've been through. So yeah, and you know what, just honestly, meeting people will be like, well, what is it that you do? And I just say, you know what, meeting these girls right honestly where they're at. When I get introduced to a girl, I'm right away assessing the situation. What are the emergency needs? Is it shelter? Is it housing? Food, employment? What's the medical, or what are their medical needs? Trauma counseling, that kind of stuff. Stuff that we take for granted, like having a social security card or a birth certificate, stuff like that we honestly take for granted. A driver's license, an ID, these girls don't have, whether it's been that they have left the person that's been trafficking them, and they're in a situation where they just don't have these things. just really just, yeah, assessing the situation. We oftentimes go to court hearings where these girls are actually testifying against the men that have trafficked them, whether maybe they've lost their children. We go to, court hearings, honestly, just advocating for voices that over time have been lost. And just really, I would say genuinely just loving on and truly caring and having compassion for these women. Along the way, they've just somehow lost themselves, or they feel like their lives have been stolen, and just helping them get back on their feet with whatever it is that they are what they need, And honestly, a huge obstacle is getting them to the point that they love themselves enough and that they find themselves worthy enough for change is honestly really, really important, but very difficult to do. So that's kind of in a nutshell. It's kind of in a nutshell, what we do. I always say, like, you're not going to find anybody more passionate about working in this field and about this topic than me. So I'm really happy and I'm really thankful that Pam is on board for the last 5 years. I've been kind of doing it on my own, and like I said, the work can get really heavy and it can be really difficult. And I am just so thankful that we were able to hire Pam to come alongside and help. So I am truly, truly thankful for that. Pam, do you want to kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit?
Sure. Thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Pam Mock. Our family moved here to Lincoln about 6 years ago. And so I actually met Paul and Megan down at a Gift to Lincoln probably 3 or 4 years ago now. I don't know. It was when Megan was just starting out. They were so excited, and something just sparked in me when I met them that this was an important subject. I'm a go-getter and I'm a fighter of justice. And so this kind of aligned a lot with what my passions are. I've worked in social field with youth and families for the last 20 years, specifically with Boys Town for the last about 15. And so this is, I've worked with young girls, I've worked with families, and with lots of different scenarios. And so I just love to be of service to people that have been treated unfairly. So that is something I'm very passionate about, is to be an advocate and to be a support person for those that are just really just struggling with a lot of different things. So Megan really covered it beautifully. She did a great job. I just started on February. It was actually on my birthday. So it was my birthday present, February 1st. And yeah, Paul and Megan, and then we have Allie is our marketing and communications director, who's not here, but all of them are just amazing to work with. So I've just really enjoyed it. And yeah, Megan's like my partner. Yeah. We're like, those old like cop shows, I feel like that's me and her. So we're kind of just doing it and working out there together. And I missed her. She was gone for the last couple of weeks. It was very, very hard. I got a taste of what she's been dealing with. So it is very hard work. It's very strenuous, but it is rewarding, like she said. And we are there to be a support for some of these women that aren't feeling like there's anyone there for them anymore. So yeah. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, we're truly blessed by these two. And I always say when Pam came on board, she didn't walk into the position, she came running. And her and Megan have just really connected well. And I told them I'm so blessed to have someone like them. Makes my job a lot easier, that's for sure. But it's just the end result out there for these women and girls. And it is, and as Pam, you said earlier today when we met, and Megan, you've said this too, there's so many mental health issues out there, and again, I'm not an expert in all this, but to be in this kind of trauma has got to just be unbelievable. And yet I'll say the simple answer to this is easy. It's love, but there's nothing simple about it. It's love one another. That's what it is. And so a lot of these girls, as like Megan just mentioned too, and Pam, that They just feel lost. They don't feel like anyone's out there. They really don't know what love is, you know? And so, and this didn't happen overnight, you know? This is a progress. And so how can you pull them out of that? And we always walk this very fine line. First of all, I say I don't want to be an organization, you know? I don't want to be a nonprofit. I don't want to sound, we're an organization. No, we're Pam and Megan, and they'll come and sit with you in a coffee shop, whatever, and they'll just talk to you. We don't sit there and get all their demographics. We don't ask them their social security number. We're just there to love on them and help them. You know, a woman the other day asked Pam, well, when do your services end? And she said they don't. You know, I mean, we don't have this cutoff point. You know, where, okay, we've worked with you so long, we've given you so many hours, or you've aged out, or anything like that. And there's always that fine line there, though, of empowering them versus enabling them. You know, you have to start off just to show them that you're there for them. Unconditional love, unconditional love, unconditional love. That's what it is, you know, because they're going to go do really good and they're going to fall off, and they're going to do good and they're going to fall off. And you have to let them know that you're there for them, you know. And so that enabling versus, you know, empowering, the whole thing is to empower. I mean, gosh, Megan, you had a woman you've been working with that's been into treatment, what, 6 times? And she finally graduated from one up in Omaha. I mean, that's like a miracle in this woman's life, you know. The 12-year-old that was 12 now is 10 or 11, and this is nothing confidential. That, you know, Megan was working with her, then Pam came in and with her parenting background, started talking with the mom. And this summer we got this girl up to Boys Town. That's like a miracle. And she went there, and she's back, and we were kind of hoping she could stay there longer. She's going to a different middle school, but this girl, as they said, she was addicted to running away, and 12-year-old having sex with guys left and right. I mean, just unbelievable, you know. And so it is, you know, doing things with them and just showing them that you really care about them, you know. And of course, a 13-year-old is a lot different than a 25-year-old. So I will say this. We have this card called the Megan card, because it says Megan on it. And it says, I want to personally help women who feel vulnerable to or involved in sex trafficking. Pam has her card too. But it says, Megan's card says, struggling in life, feel alone at times. I can relate, I've been there. Let's begin where you're right now. Whenever you're ready, call me, I'm here. Megan met a girl, I think she was about 15, out of the detention center years ago, and her mom. And this girl was running away, had pretty good history of that, more history involved in that anyway. We got an email saying, you know, some pretty sad things about her health and everything. It's pretty obvious. I think she was the one that had ligature marks on her wrists and her ankles, you know, and stuff. And so Megan went and talked with her and gave her one of these cards. And when this girl got out, I think she went to Cedars, and then she was going to go up to Omaha. This all court ordered. And then she ran off. And we didn't hear from her for months. And the mom is just distraught. You can imagine, you know. So Megan's hanging in there with the mom. And all of a sudden one night, Megan gets a call at 10 or 10:30 at night, Megan. Her mom's crying. They found her. They found her in Omaha. She's back. And she said, Megan, the only time she cried is when I mentioned your name, when she went to visit her. And she said, and she reached in her pocket and pulled out your card. See, that's called hope. That's what that's called. Okay. And you can just throw it away if you want, but she put it in her pocket, you know. And so, you know, what these two do, I mean, they just gave me the statistic. I totally don't like statistics, but we got to record some. And even in our world standards, in July, they worked with 18 different situations, 18, okay? These aren't quick things, okay? These are maybe girls they've worked with, they've gone, they've done well, they're not doing so good, we don't hear from them, they're back into the system. Was it 53 visits, you know? And these aren't just quick phone calls. These are like visits, these two going out and helping. We're talking about with parents and everything too. I mean, statistically, people say, well, you're only working with 18 that month, but no, you don't understand. Take your worst day in your life, and that's all these girls every day, you know? So you guys probably understand that, you know, more than maybe most people do. But so it's a fine line we walk. And we try just to be as informal as possible. As informal as possible. If we would get a referral on a minor, of course, we would refer them to law enforcement. You know, the 12-year-old we were working with, we got a referral, I think it was from Child Advocacy Center, you know, and so we continue to work with her. you know. So, you know, it's, and there's some great organizations out there like that. But a lot of the majority of ours are adults, but we find more and more youth. The quote on our brochure was, "I was sold for $60 and some meth by my aunt." I was 15 at the time. I met her probably 4 years ago now at the end of our walk for freedom. Her aunt sold her. In fact, I remember reading the article in the newspaper. And she asked me if I'd go to the sentencing of her aunt. And I went to the sentencing of her aunt and watched her aunt get sentenced to prison. And I thought, what is going through this child's head right now? She was a senior now at that time. What's going through her head, you know? And we're still trying to connect with her, aren't we, Megan? She came at the end of our walk. She's always said she's going to come to our walk. She brought her boyfriend at the end of the walk, and I'm just kind of, okay, on your time, you know? So she said she wanted to have her own beauty shop someday. I would love to make that a reality for her if we could, you know, but want to talk to her and see how she's doing. So that's a lot of information. If you guys have questions, you know, and how we can work together, we can give you Megan cards. I mean, the challenge is giving one of these to somebody. I tell you right now, if we could get into the high schools, a lot of them don't have assemblies anymore. I would give every female a card. I'm not wanting hands raised. I want everyone to have them in case you know someone that may need to talk to somebody that may be sexually exploited. And you all know that we use these words. They don't use these words.
Mhm.
You know, they have other words they use.
Mhm.
So what's sexually exploited? I'm not trafficked. You know, he loves me.
Mhm.
It's cool. So do you guys have any questions?
I have a question, Paul. So we have a short relationship with the patient. You know, they make an appointment, they come in. What should we be watching for? Or what would be some indicators that this person might be a victim? And if we thought that, we would try to get them alone, try to tease it out and get the police involved. But
Yeah. Here's the deal with that. As I said earlier, it's so difficult. On our website, we have a whole, you can download warning signs, what to look for. And there's a lot of different scenarios. I'm going to give you the one from a hotel, okay? And actually, you could probably use the same thing in an emergency room and maybe even at your place, okay? So, but the hotel, because they used to do a lot of the stuff in the hotels. A lot of the people now are getting smart. They don't go to the hotels anymore. That's what sting operations are. The FBI will tell you most of the calls to the escort services, they go to their home, you know? That's where they go, to the home. And of course, these people have a lot of time online if they're working from home now. So, so let's just say a hotel. So you have a woman that comes in, okay, and she's got a person there with her. It doesn't have to be a man. Okay, remember this 15-year-old was sold by her aunt. Okay, and let's say that there's a man or a woman there, and this young girl is not talking at all. She's just standing there, looks kind of scared, just like no eye contact, don't want to look at you or anything. And maybe this person would say, we need a room for 2 nights. We're traveling. And we don't need any housekeeping. And you notice they have no luggage. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but when I check into a hotel, I generally have a suitcase, not just a carry-on, a suitcase. Okay. And then they pay with cash. Now, none of this is against the law. But I don't know about you, but I usually use a credit card. Okay. Doesn't mean you can't pay with cash. Maybe you notice in this girl's purse, as she puts it on the counter, that she's got a couple cell phones in there. I don't know about you, but I only have one cell phone. Or maybe there's a bunch of gift cards in there. Maybe there's other hotel key cards in there, you know? Or you're in the emergency room and somebody comes in and they're doing all the talking. And that person, as Megan said, get an ID. They don't have an ID, you know? They don't want to talk. They're afraid to talk, you know? I think, again, this is nothing confidential. Crisis Pregnancy Center, I believe they had a referral where there was a guy out in his car as this girl was coming in to see if she was pregnant, and she was pretty uptight, you know. Now, I can understand if you're single and you're pregnant, there's a lot of things you can be nervous about. I get that. But there was just some things going on there, you know. And so then what do you do? And that's where these cards come in, you know, because you can say, if you can get them alone, like you said, Teresa, you know, because you got to be careful what you say in front of that person. You know, as Siddharth Kara, who I met once, he's from India, he's a researcher here in the United States. He went into a brothel in India, went in, paid to get up to this room, and he basically wanted to help this girl, and the girl started screaming. And she started screaming because the brothel owners send people up there to test you. And if you fail the test, you get beaten severely. And so that's what she thought this was, and so these girls can get, excuse me, the crap beat out of them if they think you're tipping them off. Okay. And so, but if you can give them a card like this, say, hey, if you want to talk to somebody, I don't know, maybe you're fine, but if you ever just want to talk to somebody, maybe, and they may just say, get lost, or they may say, and put it in their pocket, or they may throw it away. But that's one thing you can do, law enforcement can do a lot more than they used to. That hotel situation, it used to be, they really couldn't do much. Now, if there's cause, they can go knock on that door and ask questions. And there was a young woman I heard speak years ago who said, this was years ago, and our law enforcement's a lot more trained, but the funding for it is horrible, and there's just not any consistency in it. But this woman said, I was in the backseat of this guy's car, got pulled over by the state patrol, and all that officer had to do is ask me, am I okay? And he didn't. I was ready to go. Now that's unusual. That's really unusual. But she was ready to go, I always, you guys, I'm sorry, you have to hear the story again. I'm driving down Highway 2. You're familiar with Lincoln. I live out on 56 in Pioneer area. And I just bought my son ice cream at Sonic, and it's summer like now. And this is like 4 years ago. And it's about this time, actually. No, it was a little later. It was about 8:30 or 9. And I looked down Highway 2 towards 56, and there's a car with its door wide open on the passenger side. And I'm thinking, that's a bunch of kids messing around, summer. And then I pull up in the turning lane right behind them. And then all of a sudden the light turns green and they just take off. And now my mind's going, okay, when I sat there for the few seconds, that woman in the van next to that car, was she on her phone because she was at a red light, or did she see something and was calling the police? That car was bouncing back and forth. That door opened up again. Was that screaming I heard, or was that cry, or was that like laughter, goofing around? I don't know. They went through the fort and all that little strip mall right there in 56 and Highway 2. And I started going, and my son saying, Dad, quit chasing. I said, I'm not chasing them. I'm just following them. They got out onto Highway 2 going back from where they came from. I couldn't get out that fast. So I called 911. I just told them what I saw. It could have been somebody in distress. It could have been a bunch of high school kids messing around, and they shouldn't be. But you know what? Maybe somebody else called too. And I tried to best to identify the car. I'm glad my son was in the car with me because I was wrong on a couple counts. But that's something you can do. Just like my friends call me today, Paul, there's women showing up there before the sun comes up with flashlights and their high heels. And this guy that lives there is going down to this, he doesn't even park his truck in front anymore. The garage door is open 2 feet all the time. I don't know about you, but maybe when it's 100 degrees out, my garage door this much, so yeah, so I can say, well, I don't know, your neighbor's weird. Now I'm going to call the police and let them do their thing. Don't try to be law enforcement. Do not try to be in law enforcement. You can get dangerous real quick. We've not had those situations. I know situations like that. Are you guys familiar with the Bay? Yeah. See, Mike Smith is the one that we were introduced to him with Bob and I were back in the day. And actually Bob's the one that got him their location. They started the indoor skateboard park, and they're the Rabble Mill, and they're doing all this, the school. They're a great organization. But yeah, they had that indoor skateboard park, and Nikki was our first outreach director there. And she just hung out, and girls were in there left and right. There was just stuff everywhere, And it's just that thing. You just got to be careful. You got to be gentle, but you got to confront too. And this one car was parked out in front, and they wanted to get the car to the parking lot. Oh, that's so-and-so's boyfriend, and he's in jail right now because he was selling her. And the laws weren't even strict back then. The laws were a joke back then. It was more to go through a construction site in the interstate fined for selling a human being. So he was going to get out in a couple months, and they were afraid if they did something with his car that he'd come back to the Bay and be violent. So, there's all kinds of stuff like that we know is real out there. I tell Megan and Pam, no situations you're going into. You don't go in some house that you're not familiar with. You meet them at a coffee shop. You meet them someplace where there's public, And I don't think for the most part there's been any danger, but you just got to be careful. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, Teresa, but, we can give you some of these cards. We're struggling with public schools right now because Verla, our 90-year-old volunteer, is amazing. She has connections with public schools. She's the queen of teammates. Her girl just graduated a year or two ago. She still sees her. And so we've gotten into talk, Megan hasn't heard, to, public schools and stuff, and into the counselors and stuff. And, well, you can put brochures up, and I'm not knocking them, okay? But I'm just saying what they're saying. You put brochures up or a card, and if a girl wants it, well, we're going to go talk to them and say, hey, if there's a girl being sexually exploited and she's in talking to you about something, and the teacher may know about their life, because I know teachers and they do find out about, their lives, and you kind of figure it out after a while. No girls are going to go grab a card that says sex trafficking or sexually exploited and walk out. Are you kidding me? What about the stall of the girls' bathroom? They can take a picture of with their phone. How about that? So we're trying to find ways to reach these people best we can. So, and that's why if you have a situation, and do you guys have frequent clients, or is it one and done, or I don't even know that much? Do you have patients that come in that are like, come in often?
We are an urgent care clinic, so it's not like a primary care office, though we do have some patients who have come for 20 years, but
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, those are the kind that if you know something a little bit about them, you may say, hey, versus the girl that just comes in. And if she's by herself, I don't know about you, I'm pretty bold. I would say something. Maybe you don't want to talk about this, but I know this Megan, she's pretty amazing. If you ever want to talk to her. And again, she may just laugh, but she may go, oh.
do the cards say the name of your organization, or it's just Megan's name? So
Megan's name.
So if someone,
it's got her work number on it. Her number, not her personal number.
right. But if someone saw it, they wouldn't know
Nope.
why
Yep.
they had it.
That's because ours, we say in sex trafficking where we live with our logo. So we don't put that on there. If you're being, you can say something like, I don't know about your life. I've met some other people that, gosh, they're just being taken advantage of sexually. They're being exploited. To use words like that with adults. If you ever want to talk to someone that's, understands that really well, and she's a very compassionate, loving person, you don't even have to tell her your name. You don't even have to tell her your name. Just call her. I can share this with you, and it's going to kind of tap into this. I don't know if you guys heard about Union Bank giving out their money for their, well, we were one of the lucky recipients in the small organization, and you have to be voted in, and we're kind of nervous. And 18 organizations, there's some good organizations out there too. They're all good. But one of the things we're going to do with this 100,000 is, my challenge as a director is we receive donations. I've not applied for any grants. I tried once when I first started for some administrative stuff, but I was told we were too Christian-y for them, so I was still fine. And I hope I educated you on sex trafficking and Lincoln. That's fun. And also, I get scared of grants because it can kind of be, mission creep. It's like, hey, I got a bunch of money. If you want to do this too, well, that's not in our mission. You go, okay, we'll do that. And then, so, but anyway, anytime I raise money, it's like marketing, more awareness, or outreach specialists. Well, it's going to be outreach specialist every time. And so we've been blessed over the years, even COVID, it was really tough for us. But when we brought Pam on, and she's part-time right now, and then Allie helped us as an intern, and then helped us for the, goodness of her heart. And now we brought her on full-time to help us all of our communications and everything. But this Union Bank thing is, next year, we're going to have more advertising and awareness about the issue in our city. We're going to have a one-day conference about sex trafficking in Lincoln and surrounding communities. And we're going to have, I hope this doctor will come. He's a youth counselor. I've known him for years. I heard him speak about cell phone usage and all this stuff. We want to engage with parents, because we're dealing with parents right now. And how do you deal with these phones with your kids and, all this stuff? I mean, we take for granted some things that are like no-brainers, but they're not no-brainers, And then so this one-day conference will be not just us talking, but other people, and just really create awareness. And then the thing I'm excited about the most, but it's going to be difficult, is kind of have, I don't want to say a chat room, but it's like a place that on a certain day of the week, let's say Wednesdays from 7 to, maybe Wednesday's bad night, Thursdays from 7 to 9, you want to talk to an outreach, person on our outreach team, get on, you can talk to them anonymously. You don't have to give your name, and just talk with them, chat with them, talk to them. Parents got questions, we want to see best way we can connect with these youth out there. We went to the Lighthouse. Lighthouse had great, and I went with the guys, and they're all kind of looking at me like, yeah. But Pam and Megan went off with the young ladies, and they engaged really well. And we know there's talk out there and how they talk, and there's a couple they met. So I bring that up because we're really trying to connect. So this grant would be wonderful for us, because it's money that we just don't have, and we just aren't going to spend on these things. So I will send you, Tanya, and you can spread it out to everybody, an email asking you to please vote for us. It starts on Friday. We don't have the URL yet thing. Allie's going crazy. We want to send stuff out. And Disrupting Traffic, I don't know if you've heard of them. Yeah, I mean, I know Brooke really well. I knew her when she was in high school. Great heart, most definitely. We were disappointed when we found out their safe house didn't work. I think it was because of some city rules with where you could have them. I don't know, I won't go there. But anyway, it's very needed, right? Megan and Pam, housing, like big time. They're involved too. And I had someone that I know email, she goes, Disrupting Traffic is involved with this. And I said, that'd be great if they got picked too. We're all in this together. We're not competing against them, but they have a resource center, I think now they're going to do with supplies and stuff. So yeah, but what we do is very unique, the street outreach and the relationship building. And that's what we'll always do.
We're in the running in the medium-sized category. So
Are you guys really? I didn't even see that. Oh, are you?
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll vote for you. You vote for us.
Yeah.
Well,
You got it.
awesome. I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry. No, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah, we'll put that in there. So, and we always say the good Lord's his plan, not mine. So we're blessed that we got our name even out there as a name, because when I first started in 2016 with Give to Lincoln, Bob looked at me and goes, "Oh, we don't do very good in that. That's kind of, it's kind of, I said, well, let's try it. And I'm no genius, but I thought, I've got a name. So we added End Sex Trafficking. In fact, they didn't put End Sex Trafficking on their Facebook post, and Allie connected with them. Everything we sent in had that. And she goes, oh, so they took down their Facebook post and put it back up with that. Because I don't know about you, but I know what city mission is, and I know what the food bank is. I know what the children's zoo is, but I've got a name. What is that? Okay, great. You got a name. So good for you guys. That's right. I apologize. I do remember seeing your name on there. So
Any other questions from anyone?
Paul, when you do your conference, will you offer like CMEs or CEUs for nursing, physicians, medical staff?
well, please don't ask me that question. That gets really complicated.
I
I'm
know
so
it
glad.
does, but it will draw people to come.
No, I know. Yeah. Hey, thank you for telling me that. Do you know Suriani Tidball by chance, any of you? She was at the University of Nebraska, and I was on the first human trafficking conference back in 2008, and she was on that. A great woman. She has a children's home in Sri Lanka. She's back here in the States for a while, and I messaged her because she's done a lot of conferences. I have no experience. I want this to be simple, but what you just pointed out is excellent. Thank you very much, Kathy, because yes, we want to do that. But I want to bring someone that really knows how to do this. This is not Paul Yates's thing. Okay. I'm just going to admit it. I keep saying, why are you having me do this stuff? I love going out and presenting, but why this administrative stuff? But he's bringing great people around me. She's one, but I appreciate you saying that, because that's right. Yeah. And we're even thinking of maybe using some of that money to have a whole youth event. Just high schools, just get high schools there, church youth groups, and just come in and have this. What is it? I don't know, but be educated, understand what's going on. I mean, especially when these parents, when their kids are going off to college, they're scared. Don't be scared, don't be paranoid, but be concerned and be aware. Yeah. But thank you for bringing that up. Gosh, now I got to it's going to get more complicated, isn't it?
Well, you could partner with like Saints and Brian, and maybe they help do your goals and CEUs and stuff.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I also have a connection out at Southeast Community College, their nursing.
Yeah.
Program. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And CHI just gave us a nice donation. That was really nice of them too. Their foundation out on the West Coast. So it's like, wow. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. We'll see. We got to get the resources first. And honestly, if we aren't nominated or we don't receive it, we're going to raise money for it. I really believe in these things. We need to do this. We really, and also, I didn't mention this, it's to bring Pam on full time too. Hello, sorry, Pam. And also hire someone to be the men's movement director. The only problem is it's a part-time job. And the other problem is, as these two know, we're a small organization. So does your spouse have insurance? Mine does. So it's tough. That's a tough one. So any other questions? listen, if you do email me, or it's Megan@I'veGotAname.org, Pam@I'veGotAname.org. If you guys have any concerns or anything, let us know. If you want some of these Megan cards, we can get some of those to you. Megan, Teresa's giving a thumbs up. We can do that. And hey, we're not experts. We're learning this as we go. If there's something you need to tell us and teach us, we're here to listen. We really are. I keep telling you, we're pioneers. Sometimes we just say we don't really know what we're doing, and we're trying our best, and we've learned a lot. So try to stay humble with that. We don't have all the answers, for sure.
Paul, would you share your phone number in case we wanted to have you as a speaker? Or?
Sure, happy to. It's 402-601-2807. Tanya has that information too. And also there's on our website, we're hoping to build up our website to be full of resources. We have a woman right now who's actually Native American, and she's an intern for us, and she's writing a bunch of articles also about the Native American people, because, oh my gosh, that's unbelievably horrible and not talked about. And so we want our website to be something that's a resource pool for people. Oh, go in and get this. So we have books and all this stuff, but we're growing that. I mean, Allie's up to here with stuff right now, but she's very creative and very good. But there's a place on there for a speaker that's the best thing to connect on, because then we have questions, so I can, before I even get back to you, I can look into the date and the time and see if I'm even available. I mean, this worked out fine. In fact, we went with a bunch of dates, didn't we, Tanya?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that worked out. I wanted to see if Pam and Megan could be involved too, because they're more interesting to listen to than me. So, yeah. And if you want them to come speak to something too, invite them, even though it's not Megan's favorite thing to do, but she's darn good at it. And I know Pam is too. So, okay. Anything else? Let us know. Let us know.
Thank you guys so much for everything you do and for coming and talking to us. And
Yep. Our
we
pleasure.
will keep our eyes peeled.
Good. We're stronger together. Don't forget it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, God bless you all and your work for sure.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.